What's going on? It's your boy Lazy Lightsaber back at it again for another video. You know how we rock on the Lazy Lightsaber channel. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell icon so you don't miss out on any future videos on your boy's family. So welcome back to the channel. For all you new people, welcome. We appreciate all the views that we can get around here, and you can join our community. Don't forget to check your boy out at Lazy Lightsaber on Twitter, at Lazy Lightsaber on Twitter. I actually post my videos on there as well in case you happen to miss something. I also post small clips of video games that I am playing at the time. It may or may not have to do with the discussions that are on my videos. And today, as you saw in that first small intro, we're going to be talking about Zelda theories. That's right, Zelda theories on this channel, because you know that's how we roll. So anyways, let me get started on this. And right before I do though, spoiler alert, I'm gonna have clips on here that are from the game Age of Calamity. If you haven't played it by now and haven't beat the game, I definitely suggest you go cop that, because it's a hot game and it's definitely something you want to play through, and it adds to the story of Breath of the Wild. But for those of you that haven't played it, just go ahead and click off now, because I will be showing clips of that game that you may have missed, and I don't want to spoil anything of that game for you guys. Now, to begin, the real big theory, the hot topic that I wanted to discuss today, is the fact that Breath of the Wild sequel is not going to be linked to Age of Calamity. And I'm going to tell you why now. So the game itself, if you've played through the entire game, you already know what happens at the end. And even if you haven't played through the entire game, you have a good idea of how it all began, because you've played some of it already. So you see that the small guardian goes through a time warp, right? And then goes back to the past and saves the entire kingdom from Calamity Ganon. Which in Breath of the Wild, that doesn't happen. Calamity Ganon defeats all four champions, defeats Link, and then finally Zelda can kind of hold them off, right, until you resurrect 100 years later. So that doesn't happen, right? So if you played Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, you'll see from Zelda Breath of the Wild come to the past, like Mipha's brother Sidon, Riju, I forget her name, for Mipha, not for Mipha, for Urbosa, and etc. There's other people that come back from the past, right, to kind of team up with our champions to defeat Fire Blight Ganon and all those other kind of smaller factions that break off to each divine beast. So, but those people go back to their timeline. So now you have a split timeline. You can't say, oh, those people go back and it changes their timeline. It does not. Their destruction still happened. Their kingdoms are still in the same state in which they left it, right? So Mipha is still dead. Urbosa, Daruk, Ravioli, they're all still dead. Yes, I know that's not his name, but I don't like him because he's such an arrogant bastard. But anyways, they're all dead already, and Link has came back and kind of taken over those powers, right, so that he can defeat Calamity Ganon. And if you haven't played Zelda Breath of the Wild and you've had to switch this whole time, like, what have you been doing? Go get that game. I know there may be people that came to my channel now and got a Switch for Christmas or something like that. So if you did, then I understand why you haven't played it. But those people who have been rocking with us for a while, come on, man, you're slipping. Go get that game. It's definitely worth it. But so in that storyline, Link, comes back after 100 years. He gets the powers. He goes through entire trials and tribulations, goes to the shrine. You know the whole process already. He defeats Calamity Ganon at the end. Part 2 is exactly where that's going to take off from. It's going to take off from the ending of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now, I'm not saying immediately right after. It could be some time has passed, maybe years, maybe months, who knows. But it's a sequel to Breath of the Wild. It's not a sequel to Age of Calamity. That's what people are not understanding. There's two different timelines. People, I've been seeing it on YouTube. People are like, oh no, this is gonna change the entire story. Age of Calamity now it's gonna change how part 2 is made. No, it's not. No, it's not. Why would it? Why would it? There's two different timelines. It's not like them doing that and saving Hyrule. Okay? Because they do save Hyrule in the Age of Calamity. They do defeat Calamity Ganon. And they win. And nothing happens that happened in Zelda Breath of the Wild. But that is a sequel to Breath of the Wild. So now there's two different timelines. That timeline still exists. Just because he was defeated on this timeline, it doesn't wipe out that first timeline, right? That still happens. So those people continue living in the same state that they were living before. Of course, that state's a lot better now because Link has saved the entire world. The Calamity Ganon is gone. I'm sure Hyrule will go into a small age of prosperity, maybe, before the sequel takes over. But again, it's the sequel to Breath of the Wild, and I think people are getting misconstrued. And I don't think that a lot of what was seen in Age of Calamity will transfer over to the sequel of Breath of the Wild. I just don't see that happening. Now, hear me out on this. What I think is going to happen, this is all theory, of course, but what I think is going to happen is there may be a Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity sequel. Stick with me on this one. And then that will provide, all right, more story or a continuation of storyline of the second storyline. But it's going to be in a Hyrule Warriors fashion game. That's right. That's what I think. I think they can start off a new Zelda franchise without having to build a Zelda game from the ground up. Because that's essentially what they did with Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. They gave you a Zelda game without having to reconstruct a whole new world, a whole new story. It continued on, but in a different time frame where it wouldn't affect the original timeline of Zelda Breath of the Wild or the sequel that's coming out. So that's what I believe is going to happen. I believe that Zelda Breath of the Wild will have its own timeline, and Hyrule Warriors will have its own timeline, and possibly a sequel coming up to cover what happened there and then cover what happened after that. So you kind of have like two parallel universes running with different storylines. One where they do defeat Ganon, and the other one where they don't defeat Ganon, and they can both feed off of each other, and fans will go play both games. I mean, I am not a Warriors style game fanatic. I've played some of them when I was younger, but like that style of game, but it's not something that I would have purchased if it was not themed with Hyrule and it wasn't themed with Zelda Breath of the Wild. If it was just a regular schmo going out there swinging swords, I probably wouldn't have bought it. I'm actually going to tell you right now, I wouldn't have bought it. But because it was Zelda related and it added to the Zelda storyline, I definitely bought it. And it's a good game. I'm not saying it's not. It's a very good game. And if you haven't played it, check it out. You definitely should buy it. But I think that that's what they're going to do. And that actually kind of makes sense, because that way you can keep each story separately, right? But at the same time kind of linked. It linked to that small guardian that we never even knew about in Zelda because they hadn't thought up of that yet. They thought up of that when they built this Calamity game, so this Hyrule Warriors game. So that I kind of think that's what's going to happen. I hear a lot on YouTube and on Twitter. People are like, oh yeah, now this is going to change everything. No, it's not. It's not going to change anything at all. That timeline still exists. Now, there is one thing. There is one small caveat to that, though. It's the fact that Sidon and Riju and that bird guy and all those people go back and then to the past, right, to help their friends. And then they go back to their own timeline. So they do have knowledge. They do have knowledge that second timeline exists, that that second universe where they didn't lose their significant other exists, right? And there's no small guardian in that other universe to kind of keep that portal open, you know. So I mean, I guess the little guardian has that power, which that's still kind of a mystery on how that all happened, but there's no connection there. So they can keep them separate, but knowledge of that could be spread to Hyrule, or at least not to Hyrule, but at least to Princess Zelda and to certain people like Link, and information can spread to them that, hey, we went to the past and we helped save them and they won, but there's nothing they can do about it. That doesn't change what happened to their timeline. In their timeline, remember, those champions are still dead. So it was cool that they kind of got to see those family members, but it's not something that's gonna, you know, they're gonna live there, or it's gonna change their future. So, you know, I just kind of wanted to drop that little theory there I've been thinking about for a little bit. And tell me what you guys think in the comments below. Do you guys think that I'm correct, or do you guys think that I'm completely wrong, lazy, you don't know what you're talking about, and they're gonna incorporate Zelda, you know, Breath of the Wild with Age of Calamity and do some type of, you know, explaining some type of bridging there, and they're gonna bring it all together, and no, there's no sequel that's gonna come out of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity? Or do you agree that there is going to be a sequel coming out to Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity that will explain more to that story and add to that storyline? Anyways, let me know all that stuff in the comments below. You know I get in there and talk it and chop it up with you guys. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoy my content. And if you're a first-time viewer and you've made it all the way to the end and you still haven't hit that subscribe button, come on now, what you doing? Go ahead and tap that and come and join us. Well, anyways, you guys have a good one. Take care. It's your boy Lazy Lightsaber. Peace out, and I'm out.
With